Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another installment of your PDGA Global Board of Director interviews, where I'm letting you get to know our candidates just a little bit better. I've got a script of essentially 8 or so questions that we're asking of all the board candidates. And today I'm joined by PDGA number 2450 in Conrad Damon. Conrad, thank you for joining us. The first question I'm going to say is the easiest. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Conrad Damon. I've been playing disc golf for an awfully long time, as you can guess from my PDGA number of 2450. And I got hooked on it quickly. I first played in Huntington Beach, but then really got hooked on it in my hometown of Kansas City. And I enjoyed it so much. Once I found out there were tournaments, I wanted to start helping. So I eventually started looking at a number of volunteer roles, which I've done throughout the past few decades.
And have earned yourself quite a few accolades in doing so. So thank you for everything that you've done. We're going to move on to why are you running for the Global Board of Directors? And what will your priorities be? And then what issues will you choose to champion from that seat? And I can repeat any of those. I know that's kind of three questions
I think that was
one.
3 questions.
Yeah, exactly. But why are you running for the Global Board of Directors?
Let's take the first one. So I ran 3 years ago after having been on the board in the late 90s, early 2000s, then mostly turned my efforts to the rules. But then the reason I ran for the board a few years ago was because of the explosion in interest and participation due to COVID. I always like to ask a veteran player, a little bit of a trick question, like, what's the best thing ever to happen to disc golf? Some would say, well, the holding shot, or, the amazing Philo's amazing albatross. And I'm like, nope, those were great. It's COVID by a mile, because just everything really accelerated from our normal kind of geometric growth to an exponential growth cycle for a few years. And so that's what got me interested in returning to the board a few years ago. Now, the reason I want to run for a second term is just to continue that work now that I've really gained a deeper understanding of how things work, what our needs are, where we need to develop strengths, what are weaknesses that need to be addressed. And so I really have the context to be able to leverage the last few years going forward.
Yeah, and so I'll follow that up with the question of what issues will you choose to champion from a seat on the board?
So one thing we have, a strategic plan that I think is really solid. We have a really capable and motivated staff in place. I'm really excited by all that. One of the particular initiatives we've been working on is to really put some resources into the development of clubs. And I think local clubs are really, at this point, underutilized. They're crucial to the growth of many other similar sports. And I think it also, local clubs provide a really good platform for addressing some of our longstanding weaknesses. For example, participation by women, which has always stayed kind of oddly low, and that's been a constant. We've tried various things, and we haven't really. And I think clubs are a possible avenue to address that.
Okay, go ahead and tell us about your educational and work background, and how do your skills and experiences make you the right choice?
Okay, So I have a BA in English literature from Stanford. I came out from Kansas City to Northern California, where I remain. And I parlayed that degree in English immediately into a job working for a bank, programming a mainframe in assembly language, doing transaction routing. So I veered quite a bit, but it kept in line. I like solving problems. I like puzzles. I like especially logic puzzles or any kind of word puzzles. And so I have a very analytical approach to things. I I like to get all the available information and evidence I can that is credible, and just basically apply reason and analysis to it, and to try to find a solution. I don't have particular agendas. I'm not particularly interested in the politics of a decision. I just want to find a solution. And so, within my work as the chair of the rules committee, that's what I was interested in. I mean, and it's not always easy to follow that path, but that's what I bring.
Okay. Next one is, what type of benefits do you think the current PDGA members should receive?
That's interesting, because right now we are an organization for tournament players. And so the benefits that a member receives are pretty much centered around their tournament experience. I think, obviously there's the ability to play in sanctioned tournaments. But even beyond that, I think uh, personalized information like your rating. I think the rating has been huge for the sport. And I think that's something we could expand on. I mean, a few ideas have been floated around, but there's stuff that other things do, like you could, some fun things like badges. Hey, this is you just played in your 100th tournament, or you shot a 900 or 1,000 rated round, or whatever. And I think that, just an aside, I think that could be used to incentivize clubs as well to publicize when clubs do something that will help the sport. So benefits for members. Yeah, I think right now it's primarily the tournament experience. Although I think we would be well served to take a close look at expanding our reach beyond the tournament player and see what we have to offer the casual disc golfer. Without going too far, I mean, the PDGA can't be all things to all people. We just don't have the resources for that. So we're well served by maybe setting up some partnerships to facilitate some of those things.
Okay. The next one is, how do you think we can increase PDGA membership, and how can we grow the sport in underserved areas?
Okay. I'll take that as two questions. Increasing membership, one thing I just mentioned is kind of opening our umbrella or our tent or whatever you want to call it to more than tournament players. I've advocated. I don't. I think we've looked into perhaps a lower cost membership for like a supporter or fan type level thing. I think that could be something where you get a login on the website. You can view the magazine online. You get some other potential benefits from that. Because right now the key to membership is tournaments, and that has a lot of resources that it needs. You need to find TDs, you need courses, you need venues, you need the administrative man work or work to be able to fuel that. So the second part of your question,
I was asking about underserved communities in terms of how can we grow the sport in an underserved area?
In underserved communities. Yeah, I think there's two parts to that. There's getting a nearby course, because I don't think if you have a local accessible course, that an underserved community, the members aren't likely to travel to a course. So you do that. That is kind of the first step. Is you need a venue, and then you run events. You run fun, no cost, ideally. And we have some charitable organizations that already do this. And you run these no cost events to get kids or even adults, whoever wants to try it out in a no stress, fun environment. It's obviously not focused on score. Everybody walks away with a disc or two, and hopefully has a positive experience, and looks to come out on their own soon after.
Would you say the follow-up to all of that is in terms of the underserved areas and growing the membership? the follow-up question was, how do we reach new members then? Is that kind of piggyback on some of the things you were just saying?
Yeah, it does. In terms of, again, if we consider the members to be joining primarily because they want to play tournaments, you need to get them interested in becoming a, you know, I guess, a dedicated enough player to want to enter a tournament. And so you do that, through the same mechanism. They need, really, it all starts with having a local course. And obviously, you can expect this. I mean, clubs are a great route to that because they'll have the resources, the local pride, and the people to make these things happen. And I think it would be great when clubs do that they get recognized. To have something like a club section on the website, and you have whatever. I mean, everyone can brainstorm, and you can have a lot. A featured club, or hey, the Altoona Hawks. They just signed up 30 new members. They ran this event. It was great. They got so something like that.
Yeah, love it. And I know PDGA in the past has worked on various iterations of things like the PDGA affiliate club, and
Right.
finding ways to support disc golf in that sense and to support the club atmosphere. And I feel like that's continues to be a work in progress. And it sounds very much like it's a focus of yours, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, and it's still, and I consider our sport still relatively young, maybe in its adolescence. And the affiliate club program has been great. It's just, I think there's a whole bunch more potential there. Like I'd like to see, the next time we're at, the Worlds or a major or something, when they announce players, instead of their hometown, it's, here's Paul Macbeth from the Huntington Beach Higher Flyers, or, Ricky Wysocki from, the Desert Disc Club, or, whatever they're called down there,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes
great.
Perfect sense. That's an idea I haven't otherwise heard before, and I certainly love it. Yeah.
Right.
All right. We're going to move on with how does the PDGA increase the number of competitive events? You've talked about tournaments and players and such. You were just kind of piggyback on that.
Right.
How does the PDGA increase the number of competitive events?
One of the primary routes to that is, of course, you need a TD for every event. And behind the TD, you need what we call an LOC, a local organizing committee. So making it easier and more attractive for TDs and LOCs to run events is the best route to getting more events. Because in the old days, it used to be somebody doing it for the love of the sport out of the back of their truck. And they normally took a financial hit for doing it, but they loved doing it. And, there's no reason, to be anywhere near that model anymore. I actually think, TDs are well within their rights to get paid and to take some sort of cut. Because I haven't run May, but I have run, at least one big tournament. And, I think by now everyone understands, has a better idea of the scale of work and hours involved. And to that end, we have, we are taking steps there. We have a TD training package that's in beta now that I think is really cool. I mean, it really, it's basically an online course that teaches you how to be a good TD, because before it was more in the area of lore. You talk to other TDs. What did you do? Who do I need to talk to at the city or county to get, and you just had to figure these things out on your own. So.
Yeah, I'll quickly interject. I remember some of the first words I heard as a TD from an area gentleman was, if you don't lose money, you've done a good job. You've run a successful event as long as you don't lose money, because that was even a task in itself. So the follow-up to that, maybe this TD training that you were just referencing speaks to this, but the follow-up is, how can we make the events more accessible? We're talking about competitive events and having more. How can we make the events more accessible?
By accessible, you mean so that they fill, or
It just says, how can we make the events more
okay, more accessible.
accessible?
So, and I assume that's
Take that, however, take that
sure,
in
sure,
any capacity, whether it's
yeah.
overall participation or the quantity of them. That's kind of in the scope of the first question.
Yeah,
But
I
take
think
it
the
how you will.
quantity is covered by the getting
Hmm.
the TDs and LOCs to run more events. So once you have an event, how do you make it more attractive to players, or more accessible, easier for players to become involved? Um, I think part of it is, and assuming, I mean, most events are C tiers, and so as long as those stay, and those are the most accessible ones. Those,
Hmm.
as long as the tournament fees stay at a reasonable level, and especially, I'm an advocate of, and we still, most of our players are AMs, and I think one mistake we made early on was trying to basically make an AM tournament was the same as pro, except for instead of cash, you got script or an enormous pile of discs. But the entry fees were very similar, and
Mm.
the experience was pretty similar. And I used to always look at that and think, this is an odd interpretation of amateur. And so what I've seen, like actually in my local area, um, the AM part of a tournament I played was low entry fee, trophy only, which I think is not only in more keeping with the spirit of amateurism, but also it makes it more accessible. I
Hmm.
mean, it could be a $25 entry rather than 120 or whatever it might be to be in line with the pro. And yeah, you don't walk away. The days of seeing somebody with a pile of 30 discs that sometimes they turn around, try to sell in the parking lot or whatever, you know, and I know TDs like it because there's a guaranteed margin there, but I just don't think that's a great model. So one path to accessibility is, especially on the M side, is you go with the low entry fee, trophy only, nice little, maybe a package that gives you one reminder of the tournament, um, and make sure everyone has a good experience. So
Okay.
then on the pro side, pros are the serious players, so they are going to be more motivated to enter. Um, so I think there's less we can or need do to make that side more accessible.
Okay, I like it. Next one is this is one of my favorites because I feel like everyone can speak their mind a little bit more. Is where do you think the PDGA is falling short?
Well, I mean, one thing I mentioned before that has been throughout our history is the percentage of women who are members.
Hmm.
It's through my involvement with the sport, which is decades. It's always hovered around 7%, which is, I mean, again, if you just want to step aside as like a data scientist, it's kind of odd. Tennis and golf, and even ultimate, which I consider basically our three comps, our three comparables. They're all in the 30 to 40% range for women, female participation, and it's really as a puzzle is, why has ours always stayed steady at this much lower level? So um, we've tried some things. I think some have been great. I love, like, the women's global event is wonderful, and that was a success. But I don't know that we've seen the result in the membership numbers that we've hoped. So continuing to work on that. Yeah. So
Well, okay. I guess I was going to then the follow up to that is, that's an area where you're saying we fall short. Where do you think the PDGA should focus their time? And maybe you stick within that women's discussion you just had,
well,
or other stuff. It's open to whatever.
somewhat, because I mean we do have a committee that is working on it. So, and I
Hmm.
think in general, as I mentioned before, again, I think Stork said at one point, the PDGA can do anything, but it can't do everything, and that is something we need to be aware of, because there is the risk of overextending ourselves and becoming mediocre or weak at stuff that we should either form partnerships for or delegate. For example, we're delegating a lot more autonomy to PDGA Europe, which I think is a great direction to go. So the ways I think in which I think we look at what are core competencies that are going to have a good payoff that we should invest in. Again, I'm a big believer in the clubs initiative. I think we have to keep pushing on technology, again, within the realm of what our core competencies are. We can't, technology is so vast. We don't need to try to do everything that any other disc golf related technology is doing, but we want to keep pushing ours forward in areas like I mentioned before, perhaps in personalization, in making that membership experience sticky.
Okay, I like it. I heard that the internet was going to go away. Somebody told me that a few years ago, but apparently it's here to stay. So fully investing. I like that. All right. Well, believe it or not, we're actually at the end of the scripted questions. And then here's the time for you to get completely loose because I can say, is there anything that we missed? And if so, please take the time to say anything that's on your mind whatsoever, either anything we didn't touch on or any other points that you wanted to make or statements or whatever the case might be. The floor is entirely yours as to why the members should vote for you.
Sure. I don't think there's a particular topic that feels like a glaring omission. I would just, restate that, I've learned a lot over the past 3 years. I feel that I've got a lot of context now to continue some of the positive directions in which we're moving. That will benefit both the PDGA and the sport in general. And, I would love to get the chance to continue that work.
So. Okay. Well, I have said it to everyone throughout this entire process that I appreciate anyone and everyone that steps up and says they want to put their hat in the ring to be holding one of these positions. I appreciate what you've done over these last few years. Some people think it's crazy to even run for what feels sometimes like a thankless job. So anyone that is stepping up and saying they're looking to do it or to do it again, in your case, I just, from the bottom of my own personal heart, I want to say thank you very much. And I know that the membership appreciates it. Not everyone may say that, but ultimately we appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. And
I appreciate that. All right. Well, everyone wants to know what this is all for, what this is all about. Well, of course, it's all about the voting. And so I'm going to just read to you real quick from the script talking about during the first week of elections, all PDGA members who are current as of June 25th, 2025, and for all whom the PDGA has a valid email address, you will receive online election instructions, including their individual ballot. The PDGA will send the ballot weekly to those who have not yet voted, so you'll keep getting a reminder. If you are a member and you didn't receive an email, please send one over to send an email to elections@pdga.com and with your name and your PDGA number, and then in turn they'll go ahead and make sure to send you your ballot. So this is a great reminder yet again for everyone. Please double check that your email on file with the PDGA is up to date, that there's one there and that it's current and up to date, because that's how you're going to receive your election ballot, because we want everyone voting. I'll be the first to say our voting turnout is usually abysmal. So use your voice, use your keypad to go ahead and vote for whomever the candidates are that you like the best. We have two candidates, 2 seats up right now, and Conrad currently filling one of those. So we appreciate it for all your additional insight today. And with that, Conrad, one last time, thank you for joining, and we'll see you guys at the next one.
Pleasure. All right. Thank you, Terry.